Okay, guys, we are going to talk about TikTok and China and social media in general a little bit. There's been a lot of talk around TikTok in the news lately about, is it a threat? What are they going to do? Are they going to kill us? Are they going to take over the world? So, if you want to hear what's going on with the US, China, and TikTok, then you better listen. If you don't know what TikTok is, then you better fucking listen because it's going to take over the world. Of course, I'm joking, sort of. So, guys, get ready. Get ready for a wild ride. You can email me at tayradio1@gmail.com. Go to my website, tstutch.com. Go to my YouTube, Taylor space Stutch, Taylor space Stutch, Stuch. And you can follow me on Twitter, tstutch1. If you want to, if you're listening on Anchor, you can leave me a message, a voice message. You can leave comments. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you. Enjoy the episode. Okay, guys, let's get this show on the mother effing road. So, I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about TikTok. So, I believe I've discussed TikTok before, but it is a poppin' app. And when I say poppin', I mean it is really gaining traction. It has like millions, maybe even a billion downloads. Let me see here. TikTok downloads. So, um, so Business Insider says TikTok hits 1.5 billion downloads, outperforming Instagram. Yeah, so that's pretty significant. Now, what is TikTok? And that was back in November, so obviously it keeps going up. Um, TikTok is an app that a lot of people are comparing to Vine, in case you don't know. And it has a bunch of people kind of started off. It actually started off as Musically a few years ago. And I remember, as somebody who listens to Gary Vee and watches some of his content, Gary Vee talked about TikTok or Musically being a potential social media platform, like an emerging social media platform a few years ago. Now, it appeared to kind of die off. And then a company bought it, a Chinese company bought it, and like revamped it and called it TikTok. And now it's exploding. And what a lot of people do on there, the most of the content that I see is people either lip syncing to different songs or doing dances. Those are some of the bigger trends that happen. So people will make up dances and they'll start a trend, and then everybody will like do that dance. And then there are some people that just do lip syncing, but the lip syncing is not like a primary thing as much anymore. It seems like the dancing is kind of like been taking over as what people want to do on the app. So people will lip sync while they dance, but they don't necessarily just lip sync because lip syncing is boring. And then what else people do is people can chop up the audio. So you could upload a song and people will cut the audio up and they'll add in parts of other songs. So they'll have mashups of other songs in there. And then they'll also cut different parts of songs. So that way they'll add like a comedic element to it. So they'll have a song that's about to say something, and then right before it gets to a certain word, they'll like switch out words with something totally different. And so it's and also people, like if I upload a video to TikTok, like just me talking, if I said, hey, my name's bitch ass mofo, somebody can take that audio and do what they want with it. So, there are some really, really cool things about the app. And a lot of people are also using it for comedic content. They'll use it people will do kind of innovative comedy with the music, where they'll use the music to like tell a story a little bit, like obviously usually a short comedic kind of story. Um, and then other people can use it for vines. So people are calling it like the new Vine, because it's like short videos, I guess. And you don't have to have music. You could just upload and say whatever you want. So people are doing little skits with their friends, with their family, and with themselves. And it's really interesting. The app is, it allows for a whole lot of different types of content on it. And lots of people get to see what you do. So it's been exploding. And I have been on it. A lot of people like to say shit like, it's only for kids, but that's not true. There are lots of people on the app that are in their 20s and 30s. Lots of people, and that number is going to probably grow as long as this app continues to gain traction. So, now TikTok has been in the news the last couple months because of the China situation. So China has really been a huge focus for the U.S. media recently. So real quick, let me do a tangential rant here. I think this is a fascinating situation with China because I studied there. I study Chinese. I have Chinese friends. Like I pay fairly close attention to our dealings with China. And compared to the average person, I have a deeper understanding of the history and culture. And that being said, it's still pretty bitch-assny. And when I say bitch-assny, I mean like like it's nothing compared to somebody who's lived there for a while and who really understands the culture in a real deep sense. So what I'm getting at is that I have known for a long time the potential, our adversarial relationship with China and the issues we have with China and like the growing sphere of Chinese influence. I've kind of understood that for a while. And I remember when all of this Russia shit was going on with Donald Trump, I remember being specifically saying more than once, like, everyone's freaking out about the Russia thing. And that's not even really, like, that's not the primary issue. It's very clear, like Russia, yes, they're a threat because they do have military capabilities developed from the Soviet era. They have nuclear weapons. They built a lot of shit back in the day before their kind of country economy collapsed. And when they were building all that stuff, they still have it. They still have nukes and stuff like that. So it's like it's not just going to go away anytime soon. And so they are a potential threat. That being said, the real issue that I saw was not Russia, but it was China. And it's because, China is an up and coming major power. I mean, they're already a major power. And and they are patient and they're smart. So they have a lot of economic power behind them too at the moment. Now, of course, the economic situation is shaky over in China currently, but it doesn't change the fact that they do have a powerful economy. That is a thing, that is a situation. And so I just remember thinking, why are people freaking out about Russia when that's a sideshow? Right. And that was part of my thing about the whole Trump-Russia collusion is it's like, okay, yeah, of course Russia's doing this, but it's like, China has the capabilities here. If anything's going on, it's going to be China. So how does this relate to TikTok? Going back, I'd say about a month ago, people started looking at TikTok and saying that TikTok was a threat to national security. And there's even a New York Times article. So there's, let's see here. I'll pull up a Reuters article. And a Verge article. So people are trying to say in Congress that TikTok is a national security threat. So they are saying that while we're in this trade war, we're in a much deeper situation than a trade war. We were in a currency. I mean, honestly, what we're seeing between the U.S. and China is a acknowledgement of a full scale cold conflict between the two countries. It's not like the Soviet Union and Russia and the U.S., but it's close. It's, in my opinion, it's pretty fucking close. Um, so because China, a Chinese company, owns TikTok, there are concerns that the data that users are uploading to TikTok will be used and stored in China, and that there will be no privacy. There's not going to be the same privacy laws. Now, here's the situation: that is probably true. Like the people have been pointing out, see, this is something that the Chinese don't quite understand because they hear about our company's close relationships with the government, which is true and is an issue. But the Chinese government, there isn't a rule of law in China that a Chinese company can use to fight the government. So if the government says, give us your data, the Chinese government, my understanding is that these companies they can't say no and then go to court and have litigation play out about what's going to happen, whether or not the company has to give up the data, whether they don't have to give up the data. They don't do that. It's like when the government says something, the companies need to comply. And so the concern is that with U.S. People's personal data being uploaded to this app, that it can be used by the Chinese government. So this is what people are worried about. Now, hold on here. We're going to have a sponsor, and I'll come back and we'll go over this in more detail. Hey guys, have you heard about Anchor? You probably have. In fact, you may have heard about it just before you're hearing about it now. But I want to tell you guys, I have been using Anchor to make my podcast for a little while now, and I really like it. They have lots of different things we can do. So what is it exactly? What do they provide? Well, for one, obviously it's free. They have a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. I've had to use this multiple times. You make a podcast, you want to edit some stuff out, you can use their tool directly from the app or in the computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. This is one of the best things that I like about Anchor, is that they automatically distribute your podcast to different platforms all over the internet. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, so let's get back into the TikTok thread. So there's an article here by Reuters. It says, exclusive, U.S. opens national security investigation into TikTok. This is a few weeks old. But this kind of gives you a gist of what's going on here. The U.S. government has launched a national security review of TikTok owner Beijing ByteDance Technology Co.'s $1 billion acquisition of U.S. social media app Musical.ly, according to three people familiar with the matter. So ByteDance bought Musical.ly, and they renamed it TikTok. While the $1 billion acquisition was completed 2 years ago, U.S. lawmakers have been calling in recent weeks for a national security probe into TikTok. And it says they're concerned the Chinese company may be censoring politically sensitive content and raising questions about how it stores personal data. Okay, so now I don't know. Okay, so let me address the censorship issue. Total nonsense bullshit. Yes, there are reports, and I think they're verified, that the TikTok has been censoring information or content related to Hong Kong and things that are too critical of China, like the concentration camps, the supposed concentration camps, or the alleged. And when I say that, I mean, like, I believe they're there. I'm just so skeptical of the fake news. That's my only issue, is the news has been so fake. It's like, What is really going on in these places and what are they really? I don't know. I am inclined to believe that that is true. But that's all I can say at the moment without going deeper dive into it. But anyway, when people talk about concentration camps in China or Hong Kong, there have been some people being censored. And people are like, oh no, how can they do this? And I'm sitting here with my motherfucking arms crossed saying, what do you mean you give a shit about censorship? What are people talking about? Has anyone been on Twitter lately or Facebook or Instagram? If you say anything that is not in line with the far left radical progressive cultural line, you get banned. I mean, in the U.S., we have some right-wing or very conservative activists like Laura Loomer. We've got people like Gavin McInnes and others who have been kicked off of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Laura Loomer has been kicked off PayPal, Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, like all kinds of shit. And so you're going to sit here and tell me that we got to worry about censorship when our own companies are censoring the fuck out of us. And I get it. It's not government mandated. Like that's true, and there is a difference, right? So in China, yes, does the government are people scared that it's the government that's going to crack down on you? Yes. Here, it's not the government yet, but it is the companies are basically doing the same shit. It's politically based censorship. And so when I hear that, I mean, I'm honestly very dismissive of that claim because yes, it's true, or it appears to be true, that China does censor politically sensitive content on TikTok. But that being said, is it any worse than U.S. companies being politically hamstrung or being politically tied down to radical leftist ideologies because of the threat that these left-wingers try to pose to these companies, right? I mean, people get blocked and banned off Twitter for making true statements about statistics about crime, or saying true things about biology, about men and women, or about trans people. It doesn't even have to be derogatory. It could just be stating some facts or stating, an opinion about something. And if you use the wrong language, if you use the wrong terms, then the radical left-wing people will get you banned from these platforms. And it's not government censorship, but it is politically based censorship. And it's something that it's not a natural occurrence of the market, right? So when people make these claims on Twitter, it doesn't pose a threat to Twitter's, when people say some nasty shit on there, right? It doesn't pose a threat to Twitter's bottom line. Like, it really does not. And it hasn't. It has only been the last couple of years that people started exploiting these social media platforms and these companies and saying, ooh, we can attack sponsors and we can attack advertisers, like on YouTube and Twitter and stuff. We'll attack the advertisers of the platforms, and so then we'll get the platforms to do what we want. And because the radical left is the loudest and they complain the most, they tend to get their way because there's not nearly as much opposition to them vocally, because most people that are not leftists are busy doing shit. So the censorship situation in the U.S. is not good either. And like I said, if this was a thing where Twitter was like, look, we don't tolerate any nasty content on our website. We don't allow any of it because it's not good for our bottom line, right? But no, they allow porn, they allow radical leftists to spew their viewpoints. But if you are conservative and you say certain things, you get banned. Same with Facebook, same with YouTube. And YouTube, demonetizes lots of conservative content. So lots of conservatives, and it looks like even people like Joe Rogan are preparing for a crackdown. People are preparing for an imminent crackdown in a few days on YouTube. And like I said, this isn't, stupid, retarded leftists or just people that are very disconnected from the world, like to say, oh, well, the free market, it's a private company, they can do what they want. And it's like, yes, that's true. They can, but they're not acting out of a free market principle. They're not acting because of free markets. They're acting because of political pressure. That's the issue. They're not acting because advertisers have an issue. They're not acting on the fact that what people are actually doing negatively affects their business. No. A lot of times controversy like this drives people to those websites and those applications. The issue is that you have people that are politically based that are saying, no, we're going to attack you because of your politics. So you need to get politically in line with us. And so, yes, the government is not doing this, but it is a politically based censorship that is being forced upon these companies by a threat to their advertisers. It's the furthest thing from free markets, right? It's not free market behavior. Free market behavior is based on companies are doing things based on their own personal ethic, and then also the profit and loss motive. But that's not the situation here. YouTube was doing fine with the controversial conservative content. Twitter was doing fine with controversial conservative content. It wasn't until radical leftists started attacking advertisers and sponsors that there was an issue. Then it became a problem. That is not what you would call quote unquote free market. And that's what frustrates me when I read content on Twitter or somewhere where some people are like, oh yeah, the conservatives, the Republicans are crying because, it's a company and they can do what they want. And it's like, yeah, dude, it's a company. They can do it if they want. But there's a couple issues. One, they are not acting under free market principles, right? If they were, this would be totally different. Because one, they wouldn't be doing this. They're acting under potential threat. These people feel threatened. It's like it's just like how radical lefties and Antifa people like to dox conservatives and Republicans. It's kind of like that principle. If people are self-censoring, not because they have the right to self-censor, a lot of people are self-censoring out of fear that they'll be attacked for their point of view. That is not that's not freedom. That's not what we condone in a free society. Same with a free market, right? If you are not doing business or if you are cutting off people from your platform because of the political ramifications, that's not based on free market principles, but these radical leftists and Democrats are just stupid to the reality of the situation. Now, not every Democrat's like that, and not every liberal is like that, I understand. It's just that when I follow some more liberal accounts, and they love pointing that out. They love pointing that out. Oh, conservatives are all about, free market until blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, but this isn't a free market, you dipshit. Okay. Now, the other thing is about when it comes to TikTok is the data situation. So the data is stored in China, and that I can understand as being a potential threat, but I don't know how that's a threat, right? So I haven't been able to figure out why, if China has data on people, I don't know how that negatively affects people. I don't understand what they can do with the data. So I guess it's true that basically China has access to all the Americans that are using the app. I get that. But I mean, what are they just going to use location data? Are they going to look at you they have videos of you dancing and acting stupid and acting retarded. Are they going to use that to blackmail people? But the thing is that people are already doing it in the public, so I don't see how that's really blackmailable. Um, I guess I understand that data is super important. But my thing is I don't know why that poses necessarily a national security threat, especially given how many applications and how many things we already use that are based on in China that people use all the time. So I'm sure that there's other apps that people are using that were built by Chinese companies. I'm sure there are other pieces of hardware people are using that were built from Chinese companies that collect data or that pose a potential issue to people like TikTok does in terms of people being able to use and see their data. So it's not clear to me why it's a big threat. I just don't know. I just don't know. And the other thing is when it comes to like real other like sensitive data, we right now we live in a world where everyone's data is getting exposed on major platforms, and I'm not saying it's okay that that's happening. I'm just saying is that people's data is being exposed and stolen and used by third parties all the time now, and so I think we need to be extremely clear. What is the potential threat of TikTok having the data? So what can they do with it? Is the issue that they just have information on people? The thing for me, though, is that if it's, like worthless information is worthless information, right? Like you might have data on, a bunch of teenagers and a bunch of adults in the US, like where they live, what they do for a living, but what do you do with that? Are you going to threaten their company or something? Are you going to? I just don't know how it is a national security threat that they have the data, especially because I feel like people's data is kind of like hijacked and being used all over the place. So I don't know what the problem is. Now, if anybody else does and they understand the situation fully, I would appreciate your feedback. So you can on Anchor, if you want to talk to me, you can leave a voice message and I will play it. I will listen to it. You can email me at tayradio1@gmail.com. You can check out my website. I try to do daily articles